All right, and we are live. Ask me anything. BYOB Money Multiplier Edition, Wednesday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Every Wednesday, be here or be square, where we answer all of your questions around infinite banking concept, becoming your own banker, and anything relating to money, finance, and investing. So we're going to have some fun today. Chris Naga will be joining us shortly. In the meantime, we got the rest of the BYOB Money Mentor squad. And with that being said, we got a couple questions in the queue to get us started, but put your questions over in the comments section and we'll go around the horn, introduce everybody in just a minute. But let me run this 14-second commercial and we'll be right back to get this rolling. All right, here we go. So my name's Stephen Nagy. I'll be leading the crew here today and having some fun with you guys. Hopefully everyone's having a nice, relaxing Juneteenth. So it's a holiday, I believe, right? I've been laying out by the pool all day, relaxing, drinking margaritas. So I've been enjoying my Juneteenth holiday. So hopefully you guys have been as well. So with that being said, I'll pass it over to the lovely Shauna Decker. What's up, Shauna?
Hello. My mom got me this cool shirt. It says I match energy. So how are we gonna act today? So that's my question for you guys today. It's always nice and fun with you though. And then to Dr. Smith's, we always are running late on Thursday. So I'll pass it over to Brian.
You're on mute.
Brian is muted.
There we go. Yeah, up here to Pacific Northwest once again. But as usual, I'm traveling with the family this week. My kids got out of school yesterday, so while they're out swimming by the pool, I'm actually in the motorhome doing this. So, but yeah, have some good calls today. It's been a lot of fun. So down to Linus.
I'm here. Yep, my name is Linus Nolt. I'm from Hopkinsville, Kentucky. I am home today. I went out on a limb today and put on this raggedy redneck.
I was going to ask where your sleeves were.
I like it.
we had where's Linus's sleeves, and then Steven said something about Chris being short and later. I don't know. So I was wondering all the jokes flying around and Shauna's shirt. But anyway, back to Linus. That way.
Yeah, thanks. No, it's a crazy redneck thing that happens out here in Kentucky when you work out in the heat. We don't do as much of that anymore, but I know the lifestyle, and so I'm here. Here to answer any questions and help out wherever I can. Over to
that's me. Since I started talking, right? Orlando, City Beautiful, even though Carson questions at the Orange County East Side. We'll go there for today. So stoked to be here. Founding Fathers webinar tomorrow. We're going to go back through the biggest problem in America right now, which is what? Debt. It's debt. Over to Mr. Helock.
I'm Joe. I'm up here in Buffalo with Shauna.
That's
You're
exciting.
answering your questions, and actually, it's like summer. We have like 90-something degrees out right now, so that's better than our 7 foot of snow. So I'm here with my Ultra, answering your questions. So bring them in. Down to Craigador.
There you go. All right, I was just waiting for the point. All right, Craig Yenny here, and I am from the south part of Denver, Colorado, and we had a really hot start to the month. Getting up in the 90s, and today we're in the 70s, and I have a concrete project going on the back of my house. You're probably gonna hear some weird noises. I may go on mute. But yeah, I just here to answer some questions, and always love to offer up a dad joke, so I'll throw one out there. So this morning I was having my coffee, and I'm like, this stuff just doesn't taste very rich anymore. And then I realized it's because it got mugged.
Oh.
All right.
Wow.
I love it.
Shauna loves them.
Hilarious. All right. I'm going to get into our 2 pre-submitted questions. Okay. So Shane is saying, I understand you are not tax professionals. S Corp LLC question using IBC. How would you structure your note from your personal cash / policy to your business to lend out? And then how would you determine how much to pay yourself back to cover the note and to cover your premiums is the next part. And I'm asking because I'd like to be doing this part right before transitioning from my W-2 in the next couple of years. Please use $100,000 loan from policy as a benchmark at 24% annually, paid monthly, interest only. Looking for ideas. I know you'll say it depends.
That's the truth.
Good answer.
He's been watching. That's good. Is that all, Shauna?
Yes, that's all of it.
Is that one of those questions that came in early?
Yeah. So it was, I can say it again real fast. So, we know we're not giving tax advice, but an S Corp LLC is how do you structure your notes from your personal cash and policy to your business to lend it out? And then how do you determine how much you'd pay back to cover the note and to cover your premiums? And then asking, because they'd like to do that, they're trying, in the next few years, they're going to transition out of W-2 to probably just trying to be like a full-time lender. And then for simple math, using $100,000 and 24% interest.
It's 24 grand a year.
Yeah.
I mean, I do a lot of this stuff, where, so I'm just trying to, it's a lot. I wish I could just read it because it's a lot to unpack. Did you text that or did you email that to me? Oh, she walked away.
He's just going from personal to business, and he's trying to do it at
Personal to business. Okay, that's all I need to know.
24,000, and it depends on what the interest is and how much his policy is.
Yeah, 24% is a heck of a rate. I'd give you 24 grand. Should more than cover it. I structure the notes. When I do it, I do personal to business, which I do it quite often to fund different business things, marketing campaigns. Shauna's paycheck many years ago, because she came into my office saying, "Hey, not for nothing, but should I be looking for another job?" But how I normally do it is just a simple promissory note from me to the business, and then I basically log it in the books so that on the balance sheet it shows that it's a liability to the business. And then I also keep personal books. So it's an asset to me on the books because it's a loan. And then I literally just structure it so that every single month that the company pays me personally. And then from a tax standpoint, obviously that's a CPA question. You'll just have to check, but it's just going to be ordinary income because it's interest income. What am I missing in there? The stuff's all running through my head. I'm seeing it, but there was something about how do I cover the loan interest and the premium?
Yeah, and we don't know how much it is.
Oh, Shauna put it in there.
So, Chris, I think one of the pieces, and I'm not quite sure where the 24% comes in, but that promissory note from you to the business, doesn't that have to be a comparable amount of interest charge on, perhaps what a bank would loan or what's reasonable and expectable?
It does. And I remember I talked to my CPA about this, and I would urge anybody that's looking at this, consult with your CPA before making a decision. I'm just telling you what my CPA said. So typically how the IRS, he said how the IRS is going to look at it is they're going to look at a comparable rate for that loan. Now, 24% may not be out of line if you are going to get the money from a credit card, a hard money lender, or like an unsecured line of credit. Because unsecured lines of credit, like from some of those, I call them sharks, but they call me almost every single week. Hey, you need some money, you want a loan, and it's like 24%. So there is comps out there that you could justify 24%. But I've always just done bank rate loans, and I've never changed it, which I should because rates are higher now. But I always lent from me to the company at a flat 6%. Now, if I were to lend today, I would look at the bank rates, and I would probably lend it more like 8% to the company, which I haven't done in quite a while. But 24% could be justified. You'd have to basically run it by your CPA, and you'd have to show proof of what the comparable is. And if it's a credit card, then by all means, you're saving money. The rule of thumb is it has to be equitable. There has to be an equitable benefit to the company to borrow from you. So because if the company can borrow from a bank less than you, then why wouldn't the company go to the bank? So that's all it has to be. It's just an equitable benefit, and you just have to be able to justify that.
The next follow-up or the next pre-submitted question was really along the same thing. It was somebody watching one of your newest YouTube videos, and then it was Chris, it was you mentioning that you set up like a schedule to make repayments. So, and then he just, asked, it was Denny asked, let me put it up on the screen. Is like, what does that schedule look like? And then does he use the same type of schedule to pay back his policy loans as well? But so I know we always talk about this note from self to business, and we always talk about paying it back. And it sounds simple to us when we say it, but I almost feel like we need to say it even more simple.
Well, I'm going to make it super simple. I'm going to show you how I do it. It's just going to take me a second. So if anyone else wants to comment while I'm pulling this up, but I'll show you how we do it. And Melissa, my bookkeeper, does it a little different. We've changed some things here, so I want to be transparent. So this is the way I always did it in the past. Now I've got Brandon in the office, who's our underwriter. I've got Melissa, who's our bookkeeper. So the two of them do all this stuff. So, but that's just because I've got a lot of volume. But I'm going to go back to the way that I used to do this because I just feel like it's a much better way to do it. Let's see, loan calculator. I got to find it. There it is. So I always use the website called bankrate.com, and I'm going to share this. If I may. Let's see. Present. What's that one program on YouTube? Present. Oh, I can't think of what it is.
Oh.
Do you know what I'm talking about? It's those Cal and what is it? Cal and Peel?
Oh, Key and Peele.
Key and Peel. Yeah.
Hey, Ron.
Hey, Ron.
Present.
James does it pretty good.
Right.
Hey, Ron. Oh, so good. All right, here we go. Perfect. Sorry. All right, so here's how I used to do it. So let's just say I'm going to try to. How much was? Let's say it's the copy machine when I did that. I do 8,500 loan. I usually do 5 years, 60 months. Let's just do 6. Well, actually, let's do 8% today, and then I would calculate it. So boom, like in 30 seconds. Now I know how much interest I'm going to earn. I know how much principal I'm going to repay, and I know what my monthly payment is. But you're always, and this is a good rule of thumb for all of you, you're always going to want to print out this. This is your amortization schedule. So you can see, like, you just go here, you just say, yep. Now, I mean, we just did that. And even with me struggling to find it, like, you see how fast that was? Like, it's not rocket science. It's not some mathematical calculation you have to do in an Excel spreadsheet. Although Craig would, just because that's just Craig. He's the spreadsheet guy. Me, I take the easy path, and I'm just like speed and efficiency. And this is where I would do. Then what I would do is I would send this over to the bookkeeper, because in the books, you're going to want to separate principal from interest, because the interest if you lend to your company, the interest is going to be a tax write-off to your company, because your company is going to pay you interest. Okay, so that's going to be interest expense for your company, but it's going to be taxable income for you. But if you do it that way, if you got an S corp, again, consult with your CPA, but it can wash the two, right? So if you're taking the tax write-off with the company and you're paying tax personally, if it's a pass-through entity and you're the only owner, it can kind of just be a wash. But you need to track them, which is what this amortization schedule does. Because if you're looking at this, and I don't know how to make it bigger. Here, let me just go back to this. You can see that the interest and principal does change, because this is an amortized loan. Now, if you want to do an interest-only loan, which is what some people would want to do, you can just do the same calculator, bankrate.com, but just say simple interest loan. And then it's just calculated slightly different. But that's how I do it. And then this is what I send the bookkeeper to put it in. So we just track it. And then I just set up a bill pay for that amount. And also, if I lend money to somebody, this is how I do it as well when I lend it out. It's just simple interest calculator versus amortized interest.
Will you do me a favor, Chris, before you click out of that? Can you just go up to the top and type in like $3,500 and then like a 1-year loan? Or like, yeah. And then calculate that real quick.
What kind of return?
It's just like what I would do. I'm just trying to show also what I do kind of for my trips to Disney. Yeah. Is, like I usually do it 12 months and I set up a payment. Like automatically I go on my like insurance portal and I would pay back like $305 for 12 months. And then it's there for me to use the next year. I just wanted to see what it spit out.
Cool.
Okay. So again, we still have some, we don't have that many questions in the chat. So Dr. Smith is saying, I have a million questions. One is, how important is it to keep track of all the money you're spending on a day-to-day basis?
I don't know. Do you have a spending problem? It could be pretty important. I don't know. I mean, I run a budget. So we created a budget, and we do this for all of our companies. I do it personally. I give it to my wife. She completely ignores it. So I'm never on budget personally, but that isn't my fault. You know, you got to recite the Serenity prayer, and that one fits right in there. You know, there's just some things in life you can control and some that you can't, and you got to know the difference. And I've learned I can't control that. Another cat just showed up at my house yesterday. Hence, I can't control that either. I just have to show up and be like, oh, great, another kitty cat. How cute. Anyway, I think it's important to run a household on a budget. More important to run a business on a budget. And I don't see where that question is. Here we go. Dr. Smith is saying I have a pet peeve of tracking it. That's fantastic.
Just use a credit card. It tracks it for you.
Yeah.
We do that now. Yeah. Joe, you do that too, right?
Yep.
Well, and there's so many packages of software out there. I use Quicken. I've used Quicken for years, but you just link your bank account, your credit cards. It all gets automatically synced and categorized. And I mean, I could tell you how much I spend on this or that. Not that I really care too much, but I just keep track of all of it. So it's not even a very extensive time commitment. It's just set it up once, link your bank accounts, and it syncs. I do it every day.
I think mint.com. I think that's a Intuit kind of product. It might be similar to what you're using, Craig.
Yeah, so my daughter just started using a product called Rocket Money. She said it was pretty cool.
I've heard that's one of the best ones out there for that kind of thing.
Rocket Money?
Yeah, Rocket Money.
I use QuickBooks, and we do same thing. All the automatic feeds, Amex feeds in, and then our bookkeeper would just go through and just make sure things are put in the right accounts. It's great to use those automated softwares, and I think they're fantastic. Everybody should use them because it really saves a lot of time. But please don't forget to go in and reconcile at least once a month. I would say do it weekly so that it's not so overwhelming. Because when they auto feed in, sometimes you're like, hey, I spent money on Amex, and this is what I bought, and the system might say, okay, well, that was travel expense, but you're like, no, that wasn't. That was, I don't know, something else. So you just got to go in and just make sure it classifies them right. But I like what Steven said. Amex, it's my preferred card. They are freaking awesome for tracking. They do a really good job, and it kind of almost learns, especially when you feed it in. So I would say an Amex with some type of a capture system would be definitely the way to go.
Yeah.
And the way I always look at it, you can't manage something you don't monitor.
I was thinking the same thing, Craig. I mean, with where credit card debt is, I know that everyone's using it for the tracking and paying it off and being responsible and disciplined. But when we're looking at where we are as a country, saving less than 3.5%, over 1.1 trillion in credit card debt going up every day. I don't know. I'm getting a little nervous letting people know, hey, let's everyone use credit card to track your spending. If you're not disciplined, it's not going to help. It's not going to help you. It's just that's not going to work. I've been there. I've done that multiple times until I use my infinite banking to pay off our debts. But how many people have been in debt, then out of debt, and then something else breaks? I mean, it's a common conversation we're having every day as mentors. So
I think, there was a question, and I think it was Dr. Smith mentioned about teaching your kids this stuff. I think now I'm just getting a little older, and I remember how I learned this stuff. I think one of the mistakes we make with kids is we teach them the easy road. I know technology's made everything easy for us, but the easy road doesn't mean that you have knowledge of what you're doing. So if you just teach them how to set up an online thing that dumps all the information in, they don't know debits and credits. They don't know budgets. I think literally you really want to teach your kids, go out and find some of that old accounting. I don't remember what they call them. They're
the ledger paper.
The grid paper. Yeah. The accounting books. I ran Fat Man board shops for years and years and years off of those, the brown accounting booklets. I can't even remember the name of them, but it was so amazing. It was debits and credits, bank balances. It was so simple, and it just keeps you on pace. And another thing I think that's vitally important for your kids, never, ever, ever, ever allow your kids to get a debit card. I don't give a shit what they say. Forbid debit cards. What you do is you give them a checkbook with a check register. Spend the extra money and get one of the big checkbooks that has the registers. Every check they write, they have to document who they wrote the check to, when it was written, and what it was for. Like, just that simple task is almost like a lost art. Like, just checkbooks. Like, I still, and Shauna knows this, and anyone here knows this, I still write checks for almost everything, and I still write in the register every check I do. And I can't tell you how many times that saved me when my CPA is like, hey, what was this expense 16 months ago for $694 that you said reimbursement? Like, come on, would any of you know that? No, but if you got it in that register, you're like, oh, let me find that. What was the date? You go back in your little register. I just use the little checkbook, little register, and you're like, oh, reimbursement. I reimbursed myself for money that I spent at the airport because I had to use a personal credit card. You know, it's just like those things are almost a lost art because we've taken the easy path and the easy button for everything. Go back to the hard path. Teach kids debits and credits. Make them write everything down. Start with a checkbook and have them do it. Transition that into them actually keeping a set of books for their personal spending, and set the budgets. And dude, if we just taught kids that in high school, you know how much better off this country would be? You wouldn't have debt running rampant right now because they would all understand, hey, I make X and I spend Y. I gotta fix something. Now, nobody even knows. Sorry, I'm going long on this. It's such a passion project.
No, it's okay. There's not that many questions. Keep going.
Stephen, Brent always says it. It's one of the most important things, and it's eluding me right now, but he says, you know, a lot of people will write checks and there's no money in the bank. You know, oh, just because there's checks in the checkbook doesn't mean there's money in the bank. Now, you're all laughing about that, but how freaking true is that? Literally, a credit card is you writing checks when there's no money in the bank. And that's how Americans are living. It is completely reckless. It will not end well, I promise you. But for everybody on this thing, I don't know how many people, we got 44 people on here. It will certainly provide an unbelievable opportunity for all of you. But for everybody else, I don't know.
Well, Chris, we're going to connect both ends, right? We're going to connect both ends by teaching kids how to be value creators. I mean, there's so much to unpack here. We could probably talk about this for the whole entire segment, which we won't, but that's the fun of what we do. We go out, we're teaching families how to do this, and they're teaching their next generation how to do this. And on the flip side, we can teach our kids how to be value creators. There's a lot of cool things that I will have coming along soon with a partnership that's in the works, that's going to be coaching for kids, their parents, around money, around values, around really having I've already shared with a couple people here, Linus and others, just because it's something that's going to tie both ends together. So not only do we go out, you know, as Nelson Nash Institute practitioners and impact 10% of the U.S. to change how we work with banks, but then we teach the next generation to be the next stronger generation, and not what we're seeing right now. So we got to disrupt some real bad patterns right now.
I hate to say it, Jason, like seeing what I see, knowing what I know, like I look at it and I think the only way it's ever going to fix, it's not going to be because we're doing a good job and going out there and really putting everything we got into trying to teach it. I think the only way it's going to fix is the entire thing's going to fall apart. Like literally like that of which the Great Depression created back in its day. Think about that. Going into the Great Depression, it was a similar mindset. It was a similar thing. Yes, different time, but everybody was rampantly just spending money. They were making money on stocks. They were buying stocks on margin, and they just thought that the parade would never end. It was all going to the moon. And then all of a sudden it ended. They lost their jobs. They couldn't pay their margin. They all went bankrupt. And you know the after effect. There's movies upon movies of what happened after the Great Depression. But what really happened after the Great Depression? Didn't people really start becoming more aware of spending? Didn't they really start budgeting? I just watched a part of a movie, The Boys in the Boat or The Boys on the Boat.
Well, yeah, how was it? Good?
Well, I didn't get through the whole thing because it was a short flight, but yes, it was phenomenal for what I saw. But you can just see, like, back then, like, they truly, like, there's references in the early part of that movie where you can tell they're literally paying attention to what they make and what they've got to spend on it. Budgeting, you just simple budgeting. We've lost that art, but we've lost it because of just general society and how it is. And when it all falls apart, if it does, I hope it doesn't, but if it does, we're going to be forced to go back to literally understanding budgets and living within those budgets, because it's not going to be gravy train anymore. I don't know if that'll ever happen. I mean, but seems like that's the reset button that needs to happen, and I don't want it.
It's some kind of big. It's going to be some kind of big pattern erupt. So that may be what happens, and maybe something else. Here's what one of the things, just to give you kind of like a sneak peek of what we'll be teaching the kids, is like a 3-part system where we're teaching them. Okay, you're going to have your expectations. That's cleaning your room, making your bed, doing things, and then you're going to have gigs. You're going to have gigs where you can earn around the house that will pay you for, and they're value adds, whether that's a brain gig, reading, learning, doing IAMs, or it's something else where you're going out and weeding and doing things. So you're finding ways to add value to the family, and then you earn because of that, right? That's how you earn. And then you're responsible things. Like you get a cavity, guess what? You're paying for the cavity out of that bucket. And that bucket's split up into 3 parts, where part of it goes to savings, part of it goes so you can spend it in today, and part of it goes to tithing and giving. And so we're creating this whole system where we're going to teach not only the values from the parents, because the parents don't have the values and they're not talking about it around the table. It's called dinner table. This is how we're going to get there with the kids part of it. Right. And I think it's going to be really exciting when I get to share more of this with you all. So.
Yeah, and there's 2 things I was going to add in terms of the kids' education side. There's a game out there, Robert Kiyosaki has, Cash Flow for Kids. We used to play that, and then I would take it to another level when we were having desserts. I had this fork that would extend, and I'd go over and I'd dig into the kids' dessert, and I'd say taxes. And so, from playing the game, we learned about assets, we learned about liabilities and all that stuff. And then they learned about taxes with my big fork because I like more dessert. But
Craig, I always tell them I'm just checking to make sure it's not poison, like that's like the dad tax of just making sure they're safe.
Well, yeah,
that
is important. But this brings up a good point, and Chris, maybe you can chime in on this, but I saw a quote from Robert Kiyosaki last week that said something about we should no longer be saving, only investing. And I understand where he's going with that.
But I totally get that.
But it seems to me to be dangerous for some people as well.
It would, because people tend to invest in things they don't know, like, or understand. I mean, they just blindly invest and they have no idea what they're investing in. They're just like, yeah, I'll put my money in that. And then they lose it and they wonder why. I agree with it, but I don't agree with it because I just think there's too much danger and too much risk if people don't first learn how to be good investors, fundamental investors. And that's why I always just keep it simple. Only invest in things that you know, like, and understand. I mean, there's so much simplicity in that statement, but so much power in that statement.
And we talk to people in debt, Chris, that are investing in silver and putting it in a safe in their house, or they're investing in Fidelity or some kind of money market or some kind of stocks. And then they have debts that are 28.84% on multiple cards. And the Chase Freedom card, that's a conversation I had this week, right? And it's so the part that you both just talked about, what Robert Kiyosaki saying, that works if you don't have soul crushing debt that's weighing you down today. Like if you have 28% on multiple cards, you got to take care of that first. Why are you buying silver and putting it in a safe? Right? Like I get the long term of it, but that's not gonna solve your future. That when you have dreams for your kids and your hopes, it's this misconception that we have to go from earning money to investing money. There's a whole missing middle piece that's not talked about, even though it's right there in front of everybody. Whether you go look at the government, you go to debtclock.org, right? And look there and look what it's going to be like in a couple of years, or look at where credit cards have gone. We've been talking about the whole time. So it's the whole middle piece we're missing.
Dude, that's a great take on it. And I don't know, Shauna, are we catching up on questions? Because we're just ranting here. But,
no, keep going. There is just a question on bonds.
I'll finish this segment.
I like where we're at with this. Yeah.
I'll finish this up. So I think one of the things too that we've been led down the wrong path on is, credit cards, they're brilliant, just like banks are brilliant. They've gotten really, really good about pitching this points thing and the airline points and the cash back. And I think a lot of people in their mind, they rationalize the spending because they're going to get points for airlines, or they're going to get these credit card points, and they're literally rationalizing dollar for dollar. Like, hey, if I spend this much, I get this many points. And they're not just being smart about it. They're not literally just saying, hey, if I had a budget in this month, my budget's 10 grand. I can't spend more than 10 grand, but they do. Oh, but I got points. But, I got airline points. I'm going to be able to fly for free. Why are you planning to fly for free when you don't even know where you're going yet? And you're spending money to justify flying for free when you're in debt, paying 20 to 30%, 20 to 29% interest. Like, it's not even logical, but literally nothing seems logical. I mean, have you watched politics lately? Like, where did the logic go? It's just insanity. I'm not going to go there, but
how about the shirt was on sale, Chris?
Oh yeah. Listen, no disrespect to my mother-in-law, but she'll go out. She just did this, and she'll buy 5 of something, and I'll be like, Lori, why did you buy 5 of those? They were only $5. What the fuck? Did you need 5? No, but they were only $5. It's like, oh my God.
We all want a deal. Let's make a deal.
It's only $5, but you need 5 of them. Well, no, but maybe Larissa will want one, and maybe Andy will want one, and they were only $5.
Smart.
Andy don't want one. Larissa doesn't want one. She's already got 5 of them because the same sale was on for her.
Anyway. But even if it's on sale,
I like
and you don't pay the credit card off in full, it doesn't matter anymore, because now you're paying just more to the interest. So it doesn't matter if it's on sale or not. You need to still pay it off at the end of the month.
I can't remember the last time I didn't pay a credit card off at the end of the month. And I'm not tooting my horn, but literally I've conditioned myself to literally focus solely on that. It's kind of like, you ever condition yourself to focus on finding pennies or nickels or quarters on the ground, and then all of a sudden you start finding pennies, nickels, and quarters all over the place because you changed your focus to it.
Yeah.
If you focus on every month, no matter what, I'm going to pay off my credit cards, and you're gonna go without because you do that. But once you build that habit, when the credit card comes, no matter how big or small it is, no matter what your wife or husband spent, you pay it off just because you built a habit. I think a lot of this is just habitual.
I have never paid an interest on a credit card ever.
Wow.
Not 1 penny ever. You know why? Because when I first got a credit card, my mom told me, do you know the difference between a want and a need? And I said, what's that? You know what the answer is? If you don't have the money, you don't need it. And that's what I always went by.
That is how I grew up.
And you guys in Buffalo got a lot of things going right for you then, because that's amazing. I learned, I'm going to be vulnerable and just share what I paid off all my debt using IBC, all of our personal debt. And this year with my business credit card, I was investing in the business, investing in myself, investing in business, counting on growth. And what I found is I outshot what I was able to invest in the business. And when I looked at it, and the reason I'm sharing this is when I looked at it, my rule was, well, if it's going to help the business, if it's going to help my mindset, investing in myself is the best asset. So I'm going to invest in myself, invest in the relationships. And I realized that rule still follows what Joe just said. Like, I would just offer everybody what Chris is talking about. It's about your habits. If you keep making the same mistakes, you haven't learned that habit. So then it's asking yourself, well, why? And kind of peeling that onion back. And I did that to myself the other day, and I had that light bulb moment. I was like, oh my God, that's why. That's why I did this. I was looking at where I could be, what I want, what my big goals were, but not where I was actually today. And my rule was, if it's investing in myself for the business, it's okay. And people I tell me that same thing, but guess what? I have credit card debt that I can't pay off with a monthly cash flow that I'll be using another policy loan for from a different one that was meant for something else, just to get back on track. But I did not learn the lesson until this week. So for what that's worth, it's about your habits.
Still learning. I love it.
Always.
And Steph just said, this idea and concept should be blown up all over the place, but people are misinformed and believe their friends and neighbors. Appreciate you all.
Thank you.
I agree with everything you guys said. I don't want to take any time just echoing it all, but agree on all of it. Love it.
I bet you love it.
You know who else loves it? I was watching Carson's presentation before this, and he says that too.
Holy cow! I've heard more about Carson's presentation than any other presentation I think ever done. So I think everybody's got to step up and like it becomes the Carson battle now.
He's
He
just
did,
really
he did an
good.
amazing job yesterday.
Yeah.
He really did.
I got to watch it. I
You know
didn't watch
what?
it.
He spoke kind of slow, so I feel like maybe that's like a good thing. He had like this one speed that he stayed at, and I feel like it was really good.
I could tell at the end, I could tell he was starting to run out of juice because he hadn't talked for that long in a row. And like him and I kind of caught up afterwards. I'm like, look, it takes so much energy. It's one of the things I admire the most about Chris is not only the level of practice and professionalism and what he brings in his delivery, but it's a lot of energy for any professional speakers to be able to give that energy to everyone and just keep going and going and going. Like you get off, you're brain dead.
It's
like,
wild.
you guys do so many shows all week.
Yeah, the last time I did that presentation, I did a webinar before that one, and then did that webinar, and then I did a mastermind call after that, and so I'll never do that again.
Which
As
is
you said.
amazing. It's amazing to think that sitting at a computer and talking actually is such an like expels so much energy. It's amazing.
Yeah, yep, it does.
Okay, so Mr. Shuey Poke says, so do I buy treasury bonds now for high sell value next year or long-term bonds?
I got a good YouTube video if somebody can find and put in the comments. That would be really good. So I can't give you investment advice, tell you to buy or sell or tell you what to do, but I can certainly tell you that treasury bonds right now, because of the high interest rates, are priced really low. And if you just understand the simple 3 rules from Warren Buffett: buy low, sell high, and don't lose money, you will understand exactly the path to take. But it seems there might be a bit of confusion about treasury bonds. Treasury bonds aren't all equal. There's treasury bills and bonds. Okay. It's just short-term, long-term. Treasury bills are just shorter duration, like 2 months, 6 month, year. And then treasury bonds, 2 year, 10 year, 30 year. So the thing you have to understand is the longer the duration. So if you buy a 30-year treasury bond, you're going to buy it at a cheaper price because the inverse relationship to interest rates. So interest rates go up. A long-term bond is more greatly impacted from a pricing standpoint than a short-term bond. So if you're looking to buy at a discount, you would look at long-term treasury bonds, like 10 and 30-year treasury bonds, or like an ETF that is an average of 20 plus years, which is what I've been doing. And I still, to today, I can speak on myself, I am still buying treasury bonds and dollar cost averaging in them. I'm way down. So like, because I've been buying now for, gosh, I don't even know, probably close to 2 years. As interest rates have gone down, I've been buying treasury bonds. And yes, I'm at a loss, but I've done the math and I know what the impact will be when the Fed drops interest rates. When the Fed drops interest rates, which is coming, I mean, who knows when they do, those treasury bonds are going to start going up in value. So then you just need to pick your exit. If you buy them at, let's just say you buy them at 100, your exit might be 130. For someone else, it's 140. You just pick your exit, run the math, look at the past when other recessionary periods have happened and say, okay, I think it's likely that it's going to come back to this. So watch that video. I did a really comprehensive video on YouTube about treasury bonds, and it explains that inverse relationship. But I can't tell you to buy or to sell or what to buy and what not to buy. That would be giving investment advice, which we do not do.
Yeah, and back to the credit card thing real quick. So Megan is saying, and in the chat, you know, we've got people commenting in on it too. But you know, I have always been told not to totally pay off the credit card because leaving some helps build credit. Am I doing it wrong?
I have never heard of that, and I heard of that before. Who is telling these people this?
I don't understand it either. I feel horrible about it.
It's partly true and mostly false, because you don't really want a 0% statement balance reporting to the credit bureaus for very long, or not more than 1 month in a row. So that's really where it's coming from. But still, at the end of the day, you want to pay at least the full statement balance every month. And then your next month's statement should have a little bit of money that you spend in that current month, but you still technically paid off the whole thing every single month.
Yeah. To Linus's point, actually, when you go to pay, it's like I know you can click like custom amount where you can type in like I want to pay $100. You can click the button usually to pay statement balance, or you can pay the balance plus pending charges. I actually always do all of it, including the pending charges.
So
But
do
I know what you're saying with the.
I've had credit cards come in at 0 all the time. Doesn't matter. I'm still over 800.
I would say just test it and start just paying it all off and just see what happens, because I bet you it'll be great.
Well, if you want to be smart, you want your dollar to do as much for you as you can. So if you buy something, you can use cash right then. Now that cash is gone forever. You put on a credit card and you can delay paying for that with no interest for usually up to almost 60 days, right? If depending on the cycle of the credit card, if you're paying off the balance and there's no interest charge. So now you're keeping that dollar for an extra 30 to 60 days of what you can use it for. Or we can take that dollar, run it through a policy, and now that dollar is growing for us forever for the rest of our lives. And we still do those other same things the same way. So it's just using the same dollar in the smartest way possible.
Wow, Snaggy, that was profound. I'm glad you jumped in, brother.
I'm useful every now and then. I'm going back to my tunnels. Back.
Love it. We don't have any. Actually, no, we do have one other question. Just kind of with Dr. Smith is saying, where does the 5% come from, though? As explained, the loan is $500, and then all $500 goes into the policy. How do they make the 5%, and where from out of the 500?
I think there's a little bit more to unpack in this. So
Yes.
we're looking at it very static. So where does the 5% come from? Well, it's a hypothetical number because it's different between carriers, but let's just say the loan interest rate for an insurance company to borrow money from your policy is 5%. So if that's 5%, okay, and you lend that money out, let's just say you go to Private Money Club and you lend that money out at 12%. What you would do is you would take the 12% that you're earning, at least how I do it, and not everybody does it the same. I take the 12% interest. I set up a loan repayment form back to the policy. So I'm sending all of the 12% back to the policy. Now, not all of the 12% is going to fit in, but up to the amount that I borrowed, I can keep paying that back. Now, you're sitting there asking, and I think you were asking earlier, how much of that money, let's call it 500, would go to your policy? The answer is all of it. So if that whole equation I just said, if I took a loan, I lent it on Private Money Club, I got interest of 500, I put the interest back into the policy, how much do I realize of that 500? All of it. Because when you're making loan repayments, you are paying just principal. So $500 would directly go into my policy, pay the loan down by 500 principal, and I would have $500 to use the next day. Now, at the end of the policy anniversary, so whenever your policy, anniversary date is, you're going to get a letter or a bill or a statement, whatever you want to call it, from the insurance company telling you how much interest you owe on the loan. So then the insurance company has done a calculation, and Craig has a whole calculator. If the insurance company is charging $5,000, and let's just say it's on $10,000 loan, and the payment $500 going back, if we're paying $500 back every single month for 12 months, we have effectively paid down $6,000 over the course of 12 months. So even though the insurance company is charging $5,000, you really didn't pay 5% of $10,000. You paid 5% of a declining balance, meaning you actually made more money than what you think because of just how it works. Just basically one is going up because you're compounding up and one is going down. But the answer to your question, simple answer in that scenario, $500 would go 100% back into your policy and be available the next day until the end of your policy anniversary. When you get the loan interest, then you'd write a check for the loan interest. That's it. But if you do it that way, recycle, recapture, you're always going to pay. The APR is going to be less because you're reducing the loan principal, meaning the insurance company is continuously charging you the 5% on a lower balance, but your money never stopped earning interest on the higher balance.
And the velocity is realized at approximately 3.7, 3.8.
Yep.
Correct?
That, what I just said is really good when you see an illustration of it. I know it's a lot to take in, hearing it, just because I had to almost close my eyes and visualize it. But if you saw the visual of that, that is such a powerful piece of what we teach. And I don't think we talk about it enough, but it is one of those things that literally makes a huge difference over a period of time is just being an honest banker and never stealing the peas. I mean, just because the insurance company doesn't tell you you have to pay the loan back, you always should, not because you just want to be good, but no, because it makes you more money. And unless you don't want to make more money, then that's the way to do it.
Yep. Yeah. And Chris, as you were explaining that 500 going in every month, buying down the principal, lowering the interest, to Joe's point, it's 3.38% is your interest charge for that year, not 5%, but 3.38. And if you put in $800 a month, it goes down to 2.4%. So it's just the more you put back towards that loan, the more of an honest banker, you're going to pay less interest to the insurance company.
And just for my people out there doing the HELOCs, don't change the way you're doing it. Keep going to the HELOC. We're just running it through the policy. That's only if you don't have a HELOC, okay? So don't call me and ask me more questions.
The one thing I was thinking when everyone was speaking, I was wondering if he was wondering, since that 500 is going back into, like, we're saying, hey, you're recapturing, recycling all the money, you're paying 5% to the insurance company, whatever they're charging you, right? And we're talking about how that's going down. I was wondering if Dr. Smith was also wondering, well, why am I paying to the insurance company? Well, it's because your money has never been touched. It's growing uninterrupted, compounding forever. And at the same time, you're paying back your partner. You're an owner in this company, which has the company be more profitable. Yes, it's a very, very small piece of their pie, but when they're profitable, that comes back to you in terms of dividends, right? So it's everyone thrives like a really good relationship.
And one other point that's very powerful, and I was having a conversation with a real estate investor yesterday, and we were talking about how he's building his own financing system mainly for the control aspect, because when he goes to do a project, if he borrows from a bank, they don't want to wait 6, 9, 12 months to get paid. But when he's doing his own financing, he can pay that policy back once his property starts cash flowing. So he's in full control of when and how that policy gets paid back. But you do want to be an honest banker, but that's a critical piece of what we teach, is being in control of when and how that money gets paid back. So imagine if you had a car loan and you were paying your own system back, you have a bad month, you don't pay your car loan back, no one's going to come and repossess your car.
Yep.
Choices. You're saying the wealthy have more choices. That's how we're wrapping that up with a nice, neat bow.
Those are two things: be in control of your money and pay yourself first.
Oh, I wouldn't mind. Where's mine?
I don't know. I can't get the thing to work.
What thing?
Oh, when you do the thumbs, I don't know. It doesn't do it for me.
I think
Joe,
that's
you-
Zoom. Maybe.
No, Joe just did it a moment ago.
It did it? I don't. I was
Maybe
not.
because he's on an iPad, I wonder.
Oh.
Are you on an iPad or on your computer? Okay.
No, I'm on the iPad.
And then no questions really, but Brianna Shaw is saying, I put all utilities and expenses on credit cards and then borrow from her policy to pay off fully monthly.
We've got a lot of disciplined people on here. I've been really impressed with the chat. And by the way, congrats, Drew. I know he posted it way up, but he's got another policy in the family, in the Hitchcock family.
Woo!
He went to pay it today, and I had to tell him, hey, it's Juneteenth. One America's closed. So everyone's celebrating Juneteenth and enjoying that day. That's amazing. So he just has to wait one more day for it to actually go in force, or start to go in the process of going in force. So
Juneteenth.
There it is.
Love it. I mean, that's it, guys. I got 5 or 6 more minutes. We can keep talking.
Has anyone been on Private Money Club recently? Like, I'm on it every day. Like, the deals on there are just ridiculous. It's kind of almost like Cars and me. Like, I have a hard time like not looking at cars. Like, I just can't stop looking at these deals on here. Like, I just need an unlimited bankroll to just lend on these things, because it's just silly. I mean, has anyone else noticed that on PMC? Like first lien position deals, 18, 20%. Like
on Monday, I was rolling through some of it, and I was amazed too, Chris. Yeah.
Dude, it's like every day.
Let's ask that question just now. Look at that. I mean, we're not giving investment advice. Chris is just saying, hey, with the current economy, there's going to be some great opportunities for those that have the money.
I mean, these high rates, I mean, it's just driving private money rates up higher. I mean, I just look through here and sometimes I just can't believe it. And it's like, I got to read through it because some of them, they're getting really good at marketing on there. You're like 33% and you got to read it. It's really not. But I mean, like, here's one, like 41,000 loan at 20.5% APR. I looked at this one the other day. Like, that's a real deal. There's just so many good deals on here that it's getting hard to not just want to do them all, like literally. But you just got to look at the risk.
Let's talk a little bit about Private Money Club. Like, if somebody, like maybe Dr. Smith doesn't know what Private Money Club is and kind of where that came from. And if you want to.
Well, here, let me pull that one deal up I was just talking about, and then I can show you. I mean, Private Money Club is totally free. So you can go on there. I mean, you can be a premier member. You can be a certified member. So there are, things you can pay for, but it just gets you more exposure, just gets you, better recognition on the site, more education, things like that. But you literally can just go on here. I haven't looked at this deal, but let me just show it. This might not be one that I would look at because usually when the rate's really high like this, I'm always like, nope, too good to be true. Public forum. No, where is it? Here we go. I mean, like this is one right here. Invest 100,000, get a 33% return. So you'd have to really dive into it and see like investment highlights. Investment required 100,000, 9-month term. Get 8 monthly payments of $2,250. Get 115,000 back on the 9th month. So, I mean, I'd have, but even like right here, first lien mortgage, personal guarantee. I mean, shut the front door. I mean, come on. Like, looks like a real person. I'd have to get to know who Chris is a little bit here. But, I mean, we got first lien. We got personal guarantees. Got all the info, all the details about it.
Okay, perfect. So Dr. Smith doesn't know about Private Money Club. So also, Private Money Club.
Look
I
how
don't know.
prepared this
I want
is.
to say where it kind of came from, Chris. Like how it came about.
It came about because me and Steven were sick to death of trying to lend money to a bunch of retards. I don't mean to say it that way, but it was just stupid. Like we had money we wanted to lend, and every time we'd go out there and put a post up in one of the normal sites, people would literally send us an address. Like, hey, hey, I need $200,000. Here's the address. It's like, the address? Like, what the hell am I going to do with an address? Like, send me the packet, send me the deals highlights, send me something. And it was just so ridiculous. So we set out to start teaching people how to be good lenders and good borrowers. But we identified that there's really only two types of people in the world. There's people that have money and people that need money. And each has its own problem. People with money want to make more money. People that need money to make more money. So I said, why isn't there just one place where I can go on as a lender or borrower and get the job done? And I started going around and I started looking because I just wanted to lend money, but I don't have a lot of time to sit there and go out and like underwrite deals and create a deal or tell a borrower how to be a good borrower. So I started, just thinking there's got to be some place like this, like a dating site for money. And I'd go on sites and I'd post that I'm a lender. And then all of a sudden I'd just get so much crap sent back. They're all just lead shops, like where I put my info in, they take my info and they sell it for leads. And I was just like so frustrated. I'm like, fine, we're just going to build it. Me and Steven having a beer, we on a napkin drew a circle, drew in the middle 2 lines and put education and community in that. On the left side, put lenders, people with money, and on the right side, people that need money. And we said, let's build this dating site. And we modeled it just like Tinder and just like every dating site, if any of you have ever used one, where it's just community, it's just connection. We don't get in the middle of the deal. We don't control the deal. We don't underwrite the deal. We don't say anything about the deal. Deal could be really bad or it could be really good. You got to figure that out for yourself. It's like when you meet somebody on Tinder, you don't know if you're going to meet the crazy one. You don't know if that one's going to show up and all of a sudden like bad things are going to happen. And all of a sudden the next day they're going to be getting, all about, hey, are we going to get married? What about kids? I want 16 kids. Hey, what about that house? I want a mansion. Like that's the crazies. Like you don't know what you're going to get on a dating site, but it's cool because it's one place to do what you got to do. And that's what we created. And then you get deals, up there every single day like this.
I've never heard that origin story. That's pretty incredible. I didn't know that was Stephen Nagy was involved in that and beer and
yeah, where were we at? LA. And I think we're at like this really cool bar at a Marriott or something.
I think we're in Scottsdale.
Scottsdale. That's right. It was Scottsdale. I can never tell anymore. We traveled so much.
Yeah, I mean Steven sitting around drinking beer. You never heard that story before.
Never heard that story. I don't know anything about that.
That's shocking. That's shocking.
Like this is one of my favorite things about Private Money Club. If you're looking at the screen, like the community aspect, like looking to connect with private lenders and like all these people that just post stuff in here, and they're literally just either trying to make relationships, build community, talk about their deal, like 17 to 19%, 18 to 24 month term, first and second lien. But like you could just.
I'll tell you what I think is cool, Chris, is like when PMC first launched, I knew 100% of the people, the deals, the community. Now I barely know any of these people.
I know it.
It's wild.
We did. We knew every single person on here. And another thing PMC allowed us to do is we had so much education out there and so many people that were doing this that Shauna took it upon herself and created blogs. And we also created like the learn section where we're able to take a bunch of our material and stuff that we've created from way back when I was doing real estate. And we just started posting it on here. I mean, people all the time are like, how do I do this? What does a promissory note? What does a mortgage look like? So we just said, all right, here's a sample note. Here's a sample mortgage. Here's a sample perfect loan proposal. We ran this all by our attorneys and they said, yeah, just got to be samples. They can't be, recommended or anything. How do you post a deal? How do you get success? Just all these things. How do I find deals? So we just started putting tons of education up and it became this really cool thing. And it's just getting better and better as the day goes by. But I don't know how many people we have on there now, like 6,000. But like Steven said, like, I don't even know half the people. I go on here almost daily. And I'll just go on and here, I'll show you what I do on a daily basis. First thing I do is I just browse the forum. And after I'm done browsing the forum, the next thing that I'll do is I'll come over here. Sorry, this computer's running a lot of things. And I'll come over here and I'll say, all right, who's new to this? Because if you go to find people, it's usually going to be the newest people up top. And I ignore everybody that doesn't have a photo. But then here, AK, okay, I've heard that name. So you can see here, the ones that are like that, those are people that I've tried connecting with. So if they don't have a photo, I just completely ignore them. Don't even want to know who they are. But I just go on and I'm just looking at names and I'm just saying, who are these people? Is it someone I want to get to know with? Like Raymond, looking to borrow. All right, let's see if Raymond is the real deal. Let's see if he wants to do something. Looking to borrow and lend. And I can even get specific and I can go in here and I can say, all right, I want to look for borrowers that are looking for 50 to 100 grand because my policy's got 50 to 100 grand. And then I just search for it and it'll pull me up all the people right there that fit my criteria. Ooh, Matthew. There we go. And George. And hey, there's Hope, but I already asked Hope to be friends. So I do that every single day. And then people will always message me back. I mean, it's very active. I'm constantly struggling to try to stay up with my DMs on here, but I just have a ton of fun with it. And we're trying to make it even more fun because, we want to get it so that people come on here and they're just spending time on the site, getting to know people, talking to people. But yeah, that's Private Money Club.
I love it. And if you sign up for Premier, there's a 2-hour kind of mastermind group coaching call that we do once a month. And it's actually tomorrow is this month's day when we do that.
Awesome.
Oh, got a question on that one tomorrow. Is Cody Barton going to be on or I mean, I saw something of a mastermind call he's doing tomorrow. I didn't know if it's the same thing or completely something else.
Well, Cody
Might be
Barton's
something
not going to
else.
be on.
Got it. And I throw out a shameless plug about the Money Multiplier Mastermind coming up October 10th through the 12th. There are discounted rates on the seat tickets this week. I think that ends Sunday. So go grab your tickets. We'll be going into some advanced topics and strategies for the infinite banking concept. There's a lot going on.
Do you have the link for that, Linus? I can put it in the chat. Is it themoneymultiplier.com?
/mastermind 2024.
Okay.
Amazing stuff. Learned a lot, covered a lot.
Well, Sean, I'm going to let you close this down because I got to get home. I got a little one who's dying to go in the pool because we couldn't go in yesterday because the chlorine levels were too high. So I'm gonna drop out while you're posting the links for the Nashville Money Multiplier. But folks, it was great to be back. Been away for a couple of weeks here with travel, and great to be here. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Chris.
That's a good way to wrap it up.
Yeah, it's time. See you guys in Nashville. That's a long time from now. We'll see you before then, right? Who's coming to Buffalo?
We'll see you next week at the AMA, or we'll see you on another show, or come tomorrow to Founding Fathers webinar. We're going to talk about debt. We're going to talk about the examples we gave today and just go a little deeper on that.
All right. Well, enjoy your Juneteenth, guys.
All right, thanks, everybody.
See you next week. See you next week. See you next week. Peace.